All right, it's just preparing to live stream.
Okay.
We should be good to go, Chairman.
Thank you, Richard. Good evening. Sorry for the delay at the start of the meeting this evening. So I welcome members of the public and visiting councillors and the councillors around the meeting this evening on the Cabinet. This is a meeting that's being held remotely in line with the provisions of the regulations recently introduced by the government to enable local government decision-making meetings to be held remotely. The meeting is being broadcast on the council's YouTube channel, and the meeting will also be available on the YouTube channel afterwards. Councillors and officers taking part in the meeting are requested to mute their microphones. Please activate those microphones when you're invited to speak and turn the microphone off again when you are finished speaking. Visiting councillors, members of the public and officers not taking an active part in the meeting are requested to turn off their cameras until they are invited to speak. When speaking, speak clearly and slowly, please. Please indicate by using the raise hand function when you do want to take part in the meeting. So, I am Councillor Mark Corey. Good evening. This is the Colchester Borough Council Cabinet meeting, and I am Chair of the Cabinet. And I'll now invite the rest of the Cabinet to introduce themselves in the order following me, with the Deputy Leader, Councillor Julie Young, and then Adam Fox, Martin Goss, Teresa Higgins, David King, and Mike Lilly. So, over to you, Julie.
Good evening, members of the Cabinet and the general public. My name is Councillor Julie Young, Deputy Leader of the Council, and my portfolio responsibilities are the local plan, performance and culture.
Good evening, everyone. Councillor Adam Fox, portfolio holder for housing.
Good evening, Martin Goss, the Cabinet Member for Waste, Transport and Environment and Mile End Ward Councillor.
Councillor Teresa Higgins, I am the Councillor for Newtown and Christchurch and the portfolio holder for commercial services.
Good evening, David King, Cabinet Member for Business and Resources and Mile End Councillor.
Good evening, Councillor Mike Lilly, the Cabinet Member for Communities, Health, Wellbeing and Public Safety.
Thank you all. And we move to the officers as well who are supporting this meeting this evening. So Adrian Pritchard, the Chief Executive, Andrew Weavers, the Monitoring Officer, and Richard Clifford, the Lead Democratic Services Officer. So in that order, please introduce yourselves.
Adrian Pritchard, Chief Executive.
Andrew Weavers, Monitoring Officer.
Richard Clifford, Lead Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you all, and thanks for your ongoing support this evening. In terms of the Constitution, we will look to have a break around 8 o'clock if we're still going by then. And at that point, I'll give you notice to mute your microphones and blank your screens. Thank you. So just an introduction to the work of the Cabinet. We are here representing the Council. We're the main executive body, and we are responsible for the day-to-day decision-making of the Council on all of the services, and also making recommendations to full Council on major policy issues and on the budget. The Cabinet is made up of 7 councillors who have introduced themselves this evening and have portfolio holder responsibilities. So I move to item 2, which is urgent items, which we have none, unless there are any to be notified of, Richard.
There are none, Chairman.
Thank you. So item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any, Cabinet?
Yes, Chair, if I may start. I am the Council's representative on the North Essex Garden Communities Project Board, and I declare that interest.
Thank you. Councillor
That's a non-pecuniary interest, Chairman.
Okay.
Indeed it is, unfortunately.
Councillor Young.
I'm the alternate director on NEGC and non-pecuniary interest.
Thank you. And no other interests at this point that I can see? No. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 4 on the minutes. I invite Cabinet to approve the minutes of the meeting of the 19th of August. But I do also invite Richard Clifford just to explain. I believe Councillor Gerard Oxford wanted to make a comment on the minutes.
That's right, Chairman.
So I'll invite Councillor Gerard Oxford to speak, please. Good evening, Gerard.
Good evening, Mark. Yes, I was merely reading through, and the wording of minute little 2 in relation to the task and finish group from last meeting reads to me more or less like this is wards being forced to have wheeled bins regardless of the residents' views, because the wording is build a rollout program for the rest of the borough in those areas that are suitable for wheeled bins, working with local ward councillors. That doesn't tell me that there's any democracy in this, and that local ward councillors basically are going to get, and their residents are going to be have this forced on them. So I just wanted it clarified, please.
Thank you, Gerard. I actually spoke to you, I think, that the next day about that, and just clarified that I said we took that recommendation in principle, which I majored on the fact that we would be speaking to ward councillors about further rollouts, because it was talked about using a wheeled bin in areas where there already are wheeled bins, possibly for garden waste. So it was more a matter of principle that we spoke to ward councillors, as we had done back in 2016 when we rolled out changes. And I think that's something that Councillor Goss reaffirmed that evening, that we would speak to ward councillors about any further changes. And that's the principle of the recommendation that I suggested we take on board. And we did not take all of the recommendations, but we took that one in principle to say, going forward, we would be speaking to ward councillors for any further rollout. Councillor Goss, is there anything you want to add on that, or have I summed it up as... No? Okay.
No, I think you summed it up perfectly well. Let's move on.
Thank you. Okay. I hope that makes it clear, Councillor Oxford. On that basis, can we agree the minutes from the 19th of August, please?
Agreed.
Andrew Weavers, sorry, I need to go to you for the vote, don't I?
Okay, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Fox?
4.
4. Councillor Goss?
4.
4. Councillor Higgins?
4.
4. Councillor King?
4.
4. Councillor Lilly?
4.
4. Councillor Young?
4.
4. And Councillor Corey?
4.
That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Moving on to item 5, which is have your say. We have one speaker this evening, Councillor Lee Scordis. So Lee, please unmute and unblank your screen and come forward with the item. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay? Excellent. Yes, sorry. Speaking tonight on the government's planning white paper. We had a very good discussion at local plan, and I know that many of you were at local plan, and there was a consensus among all political parties that we were not happy with what's come forward. Karen Syra provided a very comprehensive report on that. I think we're all very appreciative. And I think we can all agree that planning isn't perfect. We all know it has its issues. We all struggle to tell our residents why, if they oppose a planning application, it still might be voted through by our committees. It can be quite hard to explain what's quite not the most exciting subject, but I wouldn't say it's broken. I think where it does struggle is that as it stands, developers still have a lot of power. We still struggle with getting developers to commit to some of their Section 106 commitments. There's issues around the borough with that. For example, we've still got that closed play park in the Christchurch side of Newtown. And in our own ward, we're still waiting for traffic lights on Haven Road because the developer decided to be a bit silly around that. So I think the biggest issues of this paper, though, are obviously the housing numbers that we're predicting. So we're predicting 1,612 a year compared to our 920. That's a real worry. Affordable housing isn't really mentioned at all. They talk about first homes for key workers, which seems more of a PR stunt than anything. But the whole kind of loan scheme suggests that key workers don't even benefit from that. But we all know that we need more council and social housing, and Councillor Fox is doing a lot on that already. Permitted development, I think most of us have probably had issues with that in our ward. I think that was one of the first things I had actually with Councillor Lilly. We were popping around a property in Hive Hill and issues around that could be expanded. The idea of growth areas as well, you know, do we vote through this local plan and suddenly we've limited housing in some areas and suddenly it expands dramatically and it will be denser and poorer quality housing. And I think it's clear that the democratic means in this disappear. The fact that developers can get automatic planning permission is crazy. Residents are kind of already upset about the planning system, but if you're suddenly telling people, well, they can build what they want here and you can't say anything about it, it's incredibly distressing. So what we as a local plan have done is we are going to write to the 3 MPs for Colchester, and Councillor Barlow, as chair, has written a very good letter, and I believe that's going out soon. What I'd like to suggest is that Cabinet does a similar thing. Priti Patel is obviously MP for the Stanway side of Colchester. She's been very critical of Colchester Borough Council and our local plan and tollgate. Is she really going to support these initiatives that are going to be more housing for her area? Especially when they had a chance of a garden community with extra infrastructure. And then Bernard Jenkin, who recently wrote to us to say... Sorry,
Richard said time there.
Didn't get the minute. Fair enough. But would like to say if we can write to the MP with our concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I came to the local plan committee and made my feelings absolutely clear. And I've written a motion which I'll submit, which will outline all of those concerns and absolutely reaffirm the need to lobby our MPs on this, because I won't repeat all of the points you make, but I do agree absolutely that it's neutering us as a planning authority. It is taking away local democracy. Residents already complain about planning and it being too far away and too developer-led. This is only going to make it a lot worse. The only complaints we get from developers is it's not easy enough, and this will absolutely give them carte blanche, and it does. In the growth areas, as you outline, they'd be able to just build as they like. So we need to protect our residents, we need to protect our borough, and we will do that, and we will respond strongly. There are 2 papers. You refer to the housing figures one. That consultation ends on October the 1st. The next consultation ends at the end of October. So we have time in which to make absolutely clear in a full council motion that I will put forward. And then Councillor Young, in her role with local plan, she will be able to just firm up our position in the consultation response. So absolutely agree, we will be doing that. Thank you. Councillor Young, is there anything you want to add, or do you just agree with what I summed up there?
No, I mean, I think you summed up the mood of all of us, actually. I think all I would say is it's disaster for scale of development, it's a disaster for affordable housing, and it's a disaster for democracy, which I think really is the key points that you alluded to. And I think as a cabinet, we need to do all we can to persuade our local MPs to vote this down.
Thank you. Our local MPs will have to go against their own Conservative government, but we will have to explain to them how bad this could be if we end up with a very unregulated development, planning, housing, building sector. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cordis. Thank you, Councillor Young. We will move on to the next item on the agenda. So that'll be item 6. which is
Excuse me, Leader. Actually, myself and Councillor Fox had both our hands up.
Sorry, I did not see that. It's not coming up on my screen. So I'll move to Councillor Lilly and then Councillor Fox.
I thank you. Actually, Councillor Fox was up before me, but I'll grab the opportunity to steal his thunder. Yeah, I think that that this white paper is we've said it before, and it's a recipe for disaster. It's a developer's charter. It's a Tory party's developer's charter to build where we can, and it would be interesting actually to see the response back from Priti Patel, who spends all the days having a go at Colchester Borough Council for everything, and especially building too many homes. And yet she's part of the cabinet that's going to push this through. It's very strange. So hopefully she'll support Colchester Borough Council in dropping all these housing figures, as will the other two councillors. They've been very quiet so far, and in the last few days, the housing minister has actually defended the fact that he won't change the algorithm for working out housing figures. So it looks like we are going to be stuck with that over 1,500 homes a year. So that's completely outrageous, and we would expect our three MPs to back Colchester Council in stopping that. So yeah, so that's all I've got to say about it. This the Tory Party Development Charter is a recipe for disaster for Colchester.
Thank you, Mike. And over to Adam, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. I'm more than happy for Councillor Lilly to butt in front of me. Age before beauty. I fully support what Councillor Scordis said, and I think he makes some really good points. As I said at the local plan committee, if we don't fight this now, then it'll be too late. And it's not that this council is against building the right homes in the right places, and I think that's what we need to get across. And we deliver that by local democratic control and decision making, and that those houses have got to come with the right sort of infrastructure, exactly the sort of infrastructure that as a council we've been fighting for a number of years now: public transport, health centres, schools, parks and playgrounds. And as Councillor Scordis said, what we're desperate for is more council homes that are truly affordable. And I'm delighted that we'll be talking about that more later in this meeting. Our MPs are unusually silent on this, but also on a range of other issues. Frankly, I think those MPs should be standing up for Colchester right now, and they need to be fighting for Colchester and its recovery from COVID-19 and the economic impacts, and particularly for Colchester jobs too. And what I'm really mindful of is that we've got some fantastic local jobs here in the constituency. What I want to do right now is call on Will Quince to stand up for British engineering, British manufacturing at the Paxman's site in Colchester that is literally just a stone's throw from my house here, because it's good quality jobs like that that we need to save in Colchester, as well as securing the right housing in the right places. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. You are right. Our MPs have been quite quiet recently on those issues. I think they're trying to disassociate themselves possibly with the government's failures quite recently. But thank you for that, Adam, and thank you, Mike. So we will move on to item 6, which is the scrutiny panel. Are there any referrals or call-ins, Richard?
There are no such referrals or call-ins, Chairman.
Thank you. Then we can move on to item 7, which is one of the main items of tonight's meeting, the Colchester strategic plan. And this is our strategic vision for the borough for making a better Colchester. And I'm going to run through some of the highlights of what we're trying to achieve here. And I just would ask shortly to Richard and others just to bring up, to Owen, to bring up the graphic that just presents very simply the main items on the vision document. So this plan has been formed with ambition and aspiration, but also bases itself on success and the award-winning services that we have at the council. But also it's based in reality, having had COVID and now going through the recovery situation. So we do have to understand that we've had to change and rationalise our strategic vision and our goals and aims for the near future, but also for the longer term, because of the financial implications of COVID, where that has left us and our communities, where that has left us socially and economically. So we have had to look at our plans again and change some of our priorities to look at how we can focus on what the right things to do, what the right things are for our economy now, for our society, for our community. And you'll see that as we go through, and I'll ask the rest of the Cabinet to expand in some of the areas. But the main key areas are presented in front of you. And it builds on us being a prudent council and the fact that despite the financial realities and the community realities of COVID, we are still in a good position to recover, as we will find out when we talk about the recovery plan and the recovery programme in the next item on the agenda. So we do face a challenge, and we face that challenge together with partners who we've been working with through COVID, where we've successfully protected our community and our services and got through COVID as best as we can. But through bracing ourselves for a second wave and through recovering our economy, we want to make sure we get these priorities front and centre of what we do at the council, how we politically lead it, and how we operationally work across the borough for our communities, for our residents. So I would say that we remain absolutely focused on the biggest challenge of all to our borough and to our country and to our planet, which is tackling the climate emergency in front of us. But also that runs through all of the different aspects of our plan and of our priorities. And that, despite it being one of the biggest challenges we face globally, we obviously have the key focus of recovering from COVID at this point in time. So we have an environmental focus that we want to ensure through not just reducing our carbon footprint and our impact in the borough and across the town, but also by increasing and growing the biodiversity and the wilding of our borough, which we have begun to do with tree planting, with rewilding, and increasing our biodiversity. That is a key goal for us to support nature to recover, as well as supporting our communities to recover from COVID and to fight climate change at the same time. And then moving on to creating safer and healthier and active communities. That's something that's absolutely a key part of what a borough council needs to do. So we're in the heart of our communities, enabling our communities to be safer through COVID and through the recovery, and healthier by focusing on the inequalities that our communities face. So it's research-based. We've listened, we're looking at the research in how we recover and how we ensure that we focus, we tackle from the roots the inequalities that we have in our communities. That's usually down to much wider socio-economic impacts, but together with our partners, we can make changes and we can grow a more fairer economy and society in Colchester. So that's how we will be working with our communities, and I'll pass to Mike later to give us some more tangible outcomes from that area. In terms of making things fairer and tackling inequalities, housing and providing homes for people, the people that need them, is exactly what this council is doing. We're leading in Essex for our projects on housing, for ensuring we give safe, warm, efficient housing to people. And Adam will talk later about the projects we have there, but also including how we give homes for people on the council waiting list, but also tackle homelessness at the same time, which we have been as successful as we can be, supported in this case by government, because they see the success we've had before. And I'll come to Adam later on that. Then we talk about making our economy better, more beneficial for everybody. So we need to come back stronger in the recovery phase, and I'll ask David to talk on this, and Teresa too, in terms of how we build through our own council services and our commerciality, but to make sure that we are building from the base up tackling inequalities, making our society fairer. But by recovering from COVID, doing it in the right way, supporting business, which we have done, supporting thousands of businesses with millions of pounds of business support, setting up the cold beer helpline for businesses for one-to-one support, the work that David has done, and I thank you, David, for your work and with the finance team and the business team to work with the bid and with small businesses in the town and across the borough, as well as the work on the town deal as well, to make sure that we are really bouncing back. We are much better placed than many other boroughs, I think, to bounce back from this difficult COVID time and the financial restrictions and problems we are faced with. And finally, our unique selling point, our history and our heritage. So in order to have a brighter future, we look back to our unique heritage and build on it, and ensure that people don't just come to see our fantastic history and heritage, but also the current cultural offerings that we have. And Councillor Young will talk further about that and how to bring together in a cultural strategy, a real theme that celebrates what we have in Colchester. And during COVID and during the recovery, our cultural institutions, our 4 national portfolio organisations, have been fantastic in helping our communities to feel safe, connected, entertained, and their support has been fantastic. We need to support them back. So that is my run through of how our plan and our vision, formed in the reality of COVID, will still be ambitious and aspirational to move Colchester forward, to make a better Colchester for the whole borough. And I would like to invite other councillors now just to add to that theme. So thank you, and I'll just check the hands up, see who's coming in first.
Councillor Higgins, Chairman.
Councillor Higgins, please.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and welcome to the Cabinet for tonight. On this strategic plan, there's some wonderful things that are going to take place, but what I'm going to emphasise and talk about at the moment is the cycling and walking and better opportunities for that. The COVID-19 unfortunately has made people come out of their cars and come out of public transport, and they've done a lot more walking and a lot more cycling. However, we've got to make this safe cycling. So one of our strategic plans there is to try and work better with our partners to get these cycle lanes put in place properly. And not only will this help people get around, but it also make it safe for children to be able to cycle to school. And the other thing it will help with, of course, is with the air quality. As more people are walking and cycling, it will also help one of our ambitions around the carbon neutral and making better air quality for everybody. However, we do have to work hard with our partners, and together with the County Council, we do need to make sure that the signs are more positive for cyclists. Cyclists don't want to see signs at the end of a path that then stops and says cyclist dismount. There are much better ways of doing that and encouraging cyclists to carry on cycling and not have to just walk everywhere where there's no paths. And I think that's one of the things we have to work with all these COVID cycle paths around the town centre. Some of those definitely need looking at. We also need to do a bit more respect on this. You know, it's respect for all around. It's respect for the pedestrians on the pavements and cyclists. If they are on a shared path, they need to take account of this. We also need to do a bit more respect with the car drivers. Many of them are cyclists, but sometimes you wouldn't think so by the way they behave on the road as soon as there's a bicycle there. Now, of course, some of this ties in with my portfolio, and there's a brand new cycle track for which we have got funding for at the Northern Gateway Sports Park. So together, our commercial companies are trying to put in something to help the strategic plan. And I think for that, Chairman, I'll leave it at that because I'm sure other people will say far more than me. But I think I support the strategic plan. I think it's a good way forward. Let's do lots of things and let's get everybody walking and cycling safely. Thank you.
Absolutely agree. Thank you. And that is a key part of healthier communities and the greener agenda as well. Thank you, Councillor Higgins, and Councillor Young, please.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to give a few comments around what we're doing on the cultural portfolio, and I think key to our blueprint for success will be the creation of a cultural strategy. And that will be a tremendous opportunity to support our cultural institutions in Colchester. helping them with their national portfolio applications for continued funding from the Arts Council. And just to say that it's really important for us to invest in our heritage and culture. It's worth annually 380 million and directly supports around 7,000 jobs. So there's really good economic case for funding historic and heritage and cultural activity. We know that we need to bring tourists into the town centre by promoting what our assets and what we have here in Colchester more. We can bring more visitors to the town centre, which will help our economy. So we've launched a new website for the Visitor Information Centre. We will complete the Mercury Rising project, which will be fantastic for the town. And we're going to deliver a major Nero exhibition at our Castle Museum. So in the forthcoming year, we've got a lot to look forward to. We obviously have to have an eye on the budget because we've discussed on a number of occasions how COVID has left us depleted in our funding. So this will be a blueprint for the future. And there's never a lack of appetite for additional funding and spending on heritage, but it has to be in the context of the budget we have available.
Thank you, Julie. I completely agree with you. Thank you. Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to offer just a few remarks on the economy part of this strategic plan because of its critical importance. And we talk about enabling an economic recovery, which is what we must do as a local authority, play our part. And we rightly talk, as we have elsewhere, about equality and ensuring that all residents, as best we can influence it, benefit from growth. And let's be frank and let's be blunt. That means ensuring as best we can that in doing well, there are fewer jobs lost and a swifter recovery, because we really mustn't underestimate or understate the context of this health and economic catastrophe around us, with many, many months to go. We're in a partly hidden recession, the worst of modern times. And I know that we don't underestimate that, but the full effects have not been felt yet. So everything we do is in that context. So ambition for really core purposes to try and deliver what we can as a local authority with others to minimise the impacts and, as I say, improve our prospects for recovery. Two other points, Chair. As set out in the paper, those ambitions are examples of where we'll head and what we'll look for in terms of indicators of progress. But I'd put it perhaps more simply. Now, we have real strengths in Colchester and the borough, and we don't talk about them enough. We have the university and the institute, both high-ranking, highly regarded, and serving a number of purposes, including national impacts upon skills and capacity for the nation. We are a garrison town, and that matters. Those three provide some core incomes, some core footfall to our town centre, and they provide jobs, prospects and possibilities for the future. And thirdly and last, we have a track record for attracting investment, which is hugely important, because words are words, as Mr. Goss will know, but it's money and investment that will make the difference to what we know will matter hugely to everybody. Jobs and prospects in those jobs. And I want to say that this will mean us facing up to uncomfortable and uncomfortable decisions, and we will need to take them. So uncomfortable will mean, despite the division, that when we get investments like Alumno, that we accept its disadvantages, but we absolutely acknowledge the jobs, the income and the investment, which many towns would fight hard for. Whatever the difficulties, for us and for others, this is a really significant deal. And we have a reputation, in my view, of keeping our word, which we must honour. And less contentious, of course, in Northern Gateway and elsewhere, where patience and skill and perseverance, we might yet see major projects and major investments which reinforce that sense of this is a place to live and work and visit, which Councillor Young talked to earlier. That's why people will come here. That's why people will move here. That's why people will invest here. And I think we should be really sober about the context, but really positive about what lies ahead of us. And one simple illustration is we have been really good, our commercial arms of this council and the leadership here with our support in ensuring that there is good employment land. There are offices fit for the purpose. Now, adapting to the new environment is what we're going to have to do, but we should really take some heart from what we've done well before and what we can do well again. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you as well for not only leading the team on the finances through this period, but also carving out some finance in order to reinvest into the borough and into business and creating as best a town centre and experience, bringing people in and supporting the whole borough to recover, which we'll see in the next paper. Thank you. Adam, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. So I want to talk about the section in the plan that is about delivering homes for the people who need them. And there are three main strands to that. It's about increasing the number, quality and types of homes, preventing households from experiencing homelessness, and creating new communities and adopting a new local plan that delivers jobs, homes and the infrastructure to meet the borough's future needs. And despite the economic challenges, we're using our power to borrow to invest in new housing. And this council is doing that ahead of other local councils, investing in truly affordable homes for people in Colchester. And that's a multi-million-pound programme of investment. And what I'm really proud of is about our plans for building new council homes for residents, delivering new affordable homes and continuing to improve and modernise the available housing for our older population too. What's really important is about creating great places to live through the provision of new homes and infrastructure, and that we make those places sustainable and that they promote health and well-being. And two key areas are the Colchester Northern Gateway, which will be a sustainable place to live and work with high quality sports facilities, and a UK first for energy production in the Northern Gateway heat network. And the new garden community on the Colchester-Tendring border will deliver 21st century living with the necessary infrastructure in place too. We know that building new houses delivers new jobs and supports the local economy, but most importantly, we will be delivering better homes for Colchester. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Adam. And I'll go to Mike, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yeah, it's there's a lot of really good work has been done, and we're talking about communities and volunteers and health and wellbeing. We've got the new sports structure coming in the next few months, next year. But the one thing that has happened that's different is the coronavirus struck us and everybody else really bad this year, and the strength of our volunteer groups come out in that just showed that Colchester people know how to pull together. So we are working towards better working with a lot more of the volunteer groups in Colchester, and hopefully we'll have, with the new technology involved, that all those groups now are using web chats and Teams and Zoom, that we'll be able to accommodate a lot more people. We've got a meeting coming up, I think, with Citizens Advice Bureau, who have actually increased their volunteers because they've been working from home. So we'll be able to work with them and to see what we can offer them and everybody else. Age Concern has been involved in that. And of course, Community 360 has been at the heart of everything that we've done to help people. There's an awful lot of people still on receiving food parcels. Thanks to the Tory party's austerity programme, they've created this mess. And now that the virus is hit, it's doubly hit. There's still more people on that poverty line which they've created. We need to get those people off of food parcels and into a better work and being more healthy and well-being. On the public safety front, we've been really happy working with the police in bringing down numbers at the town centre, doing a lot of volunteer work with them. And what's coming around the corner is a really modern, up-to-date CCTV system that's going to have more cameras. It's going to improve the quality, improve, probably help with the shopping centres in town, link up with Lion Walk and Culver Street we never had before, link up to other outside areas of the town, and we'll be able to improve that and help people feel much safer and bring a lot more criminals to justice as well, working with the police. So that's really good scheme coming up in that. And on the parking front, no one else looks to talk about parking apart from me, but we have got a few initiatives lined up to help with the town centre. We know at the moment that the special offers that we've got with parking are being taken up really, really well on the My Permanent app that we're working with, and we've got the shopping app that's going to come soon, hopefully just before Christmas, to help businesses in town help beat the crisis that we have at the moment. But on top of that, it has to work with our green and air quality environmental issues as well. So we'll probably look at different pricing tariffs across the town centre and have some cheaper ones just outside of the town centre. But we've got that yet to come, so I'll hand it over there. So the future looks good under this coalition. We're working really well.
Thank you, Mike. You make some really good points there about how our leadership coordinating efforts along with Community 360 and the One Colchester Partnership has helped through COVID and through the recovery. And we're going to build on that. I think that's really positive. And I think the CCTV is one example where, again, we're putting in the investment, we're putting in the time, and that will benefit a lot of our partners. And I'll say at this point, I want to thank Pam Donnelly, Lucy Bredman and their team, the ones who have worked so closely with you, Mike, and will continue to work with Community 360 and the other partners. That One Colchester Partnership, chaired by Pam Donnelly, has really supported residents. It's been life-changing, I would say, making sure that we are supporting the most vulnerable and everyone across the borough during this period. So we can build on that strength of community, that strength of coordination and leadership of the borough that we have, and we have in our offices as well as our portfolio holders. So thank you, Mike, for those examples. Is that everybody? Has everybody had a chance to promote what they think is excellent about the strategic plan? Because I think it is. I see no other hands up, so I will go forward and say, can we vote on this? And Andrew, please come forward.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So the recommendation is to agree the Strategic Plan 2023 and to recommend to full council that it be adopted and included in the policy framework. Councillor Fox.
4.
4. Councillor Goss.
4.
4. Councillor Higgins.
4.
4. Councillor King.
4.
4. Councillor Lilly.
4.
4. Councillor Young.
4.
4. Thank you. And Councillor Corey.
4.
4. That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Excellent to pass that plan for the next few years and our vision for the borough. So thank you all. Moving on, item 7, two little eyes, is the Council Recovery Programme and Plan post-COVID-19. And I will ask Councillor King to introduce this. I don't think we have any have your say speakers on this item. So over to you, Councillor King, please.
Thank you very much, Leader, colleagues. Now, I'll focus most, although as described here, this is the breadth and width of our business and the way that we are structured and relate with others, how we support our communities, how CBC acts as an organisation. But I'll focus, if I may, on the economic part of the ship, the recovery angle and the impact we touched on earlier. And I'll ask my colleagues, as I know they will, to sort of supplement this. I think the first thing for me is to acknowledge the value we always place upon robust, focused, constructed scrutiny. And this had the better part of 3.5 hours worth of good quality scrutiny, a really good quality debate that showed, in my view, the best of the chamber in bringing real insights and perspectives, and as I say, robust and appropriate challenge. And the fact that this comprehensive set of documents fared well, indeed, reasonable to say, well received, if not applauded, is a credit to the officers and a small tick at least for those of us who played a part in asking for this work to be undertaken at pace. So it's a credit to CBC and their senior team that we have so swiftly such a comprehensive papers and approach. And as important from my perspective professionally is the fact that it's looking as it should from the short term outwards, acknowledging that some of the things that we can do, some in train, some not, will have an impact, need to be integrated to give a strategic whole. And this does really supplement and work well with the strategic paper leader that has just been endorsed. So the points I've drawn out of this are as follows. I think there is absolutely rightly a focus here and a reminder of the huge amounts of work that are being done already, some of them touched on by Councillor Fox. And we underestimate both the financial value and the human impact of investing in homes and housing, a good proportion of which is directly to the benefit of those amongst the most vulnerable in our society. But we're also looking at the higher end of expectation for us as an attractive place to visit and live. So completing what we've started on the Mercury and Northern Gateway Sports Park and all that's associated with that part of the borough is just great news and is at the heart of a confidence we have that recovery will be a reality here and faster and stronger than in some other parts of the county or country. We're also investing, as we touched on, in the town centre, in the public realm, and we're using our purchasing power to support the local businesses. These are just 3 illustrations of what this comprehensive paper on recovery sets out. And I think if you brought that all together, this is about us standing up for putting our muscles, such as it is, behind our residents and our people and our businesses. And we need them to prosper. We need them to survive. We have to be frank and accept that some will struggle and some will not make the times that lie ahead. But we must do our damnedest to ensure that as many as possible do well and do come through. To that end, we have invested, or we are investing 100k as a symbol, a real symbol, but also a practical expression of our commitment to the town centre. So working with them, adding to their resources, we're going to boost the confidence of our businesses, that's our intent in the town centre, and boost the confidence of our consumers that Colchester now, and Colchester in the medium term, helped by the town deal that we will deliver, and on which we have submitted the first proposals and propositions of public realm improvements at the gateways to our town, that the town that the people of Colchester have now is one that they can stay and be proud in, and the town that we're going to have is going to do as well as any can do in the difficult circumstances we've talked about. So these are the first steps, but there is a real glimpse of good prospects for Colchester, looking at this as I do now, and even to colleagues, more than the economic recovery that's central. There is huge uncertainty. We have to acknowledge this. This is the work of months, and I think we have to say it, years, to reshape and respond, but we have a really well-tested foundation here in this paper and in the way ahead set out for this council and cabinet, and I support it accordingly.
Thank you, David. I have Councillor Young as well, please. Julie, you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Leader. I think we're acutely aware of the way COVID has exacerbated and brought to the fore existing inequalities within our communities, and not least the BAME community. And we talked earlier about that in terms of our strategy going forward. But I think during the COVID period, our own council officers have been working really hard to try and get beneath what's been going on, to work out what we need to do going forward. And I think the work that was done with Anglia Ruskin University will be key to helping us with our recovery and supporting our communities. We know that there's going to be businesses that struggle. Adam mentioned Man Energy earlier. We need to do what we can and salvage those jobs. And I think we have got ambitious plans for the town centre, not least the bus depot. So although we've got a challenging time ahead in terms of our own budget, we will ruthlessly go after any funding opportunities that can be made available to help us with this recovery work. And if we are able to bring in some investment in terms of creating job opportunities at the bus depot, that is just the sort of project we need to be focusing on to help bring jobs to Colchester, which is the way out of the inequality and economic barriers people face in terms of their thriving. So I think we should be realistic about our own budget envelope, but I think that officers work tremendously hard and are tremendously successful in attracting inward investment, and we need to keep a hard line on that and work as hard as we can to bring money in.
Thank you, Julie. I agree with what you've said there, and absolutely thank David and the team working on recovery. And I know, Julie, you've been working with him and with Mandy and Ian and Dan and everyone on the team who's helped. So thank you for that update. And this plan is sustainable going forward in the future. And I think you talked about the investments that we are making, as well as the external investments we're bringing in. And that's absolutely vital. And some of this came and was absolutely prepared in the last 1 or 2 years before COVID. But it's good because of our ambition is showing now it's delivering results. And where other towns may falter, we have got that external investment, whether it be the ultra-fast broadband, whether it be Northern Gateway, other examples where we may get some support from the town deal or national funding as well that goes into our public realm. It will make our town, our borough, our whole area better. And that's because we are forward thinking. And we're working with good partners as well, as I talked about with the cultural organisations earlier, the bid. And once again, thank David for his relationship building there, which has really improved our relationship with businesses and the bid in the town. So thank you both for those contributions. I can't see any others. So this plan, as David has said, has had full support from the scrutiny panel, and thanks to the team from the panel, and thanks went to David that evening as well for his efforts. So it is backed by the whole council, and I hope that we can support it tonight, Cabinet. So over to Andrew for the vote, please.
Chairman, I think we've just lost Andrew temporarily, so if you bear with me, I will just administer the votes.
Richard for multitasking.
Councillor Fox?
For.
Councillor Higgins?
For.
Councillor Goss?
For.
Councillor Lilly?
For. Usually you miss Councillor King.
Councillor King?
No harm done. 4.
Councillor Young?
4.
And Councillor Corey?
4.
Lovely, thank you. That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for doing all the different tasks you do. You're a splendid support. Thank you. So moving on to item 8, the increasing supply of affordable housing and the 100 Homes project, and the excellent projects we are doing to provide homes for the people that need them. So over to you, Councillor Fox, please, and for the support from the Democratic Services officers to present the presentation. Adam.
Thank you very much, Leader. And we have some slides to talk you through, as you said, this fantastic new project. The report in front of Cabinet tonight recommends us to agree to continuing our commitment to increase the supply of affordable housing by investing £22 million to purchase 100 former council homes. This significant investment would bring Colchester Borough Council's total commitment to acquiring new homes to over £50 million, providing 280 homes as part of this programme. If we could move to the next slide, please. This investment is in addition to the Council's 5-year new council house building programme, which has an estimated investment need of £75 million and will deliver 350 new homes. All of this proposed and previously agreed investment is being funded through borrowing, which will be repaid by the rents the council charges for the new homes and the contribution of receipts from right to buy sales that the council is allowed to use to provide new homes. The council's housing fund, the HRA, sits separately from the council's general fund, and this enables us to deliver this investment despite the challenging economic times that we face. We also have a fantastic team of officers within the council and in Colchester Borough Homes with the energy and the expertise who are determined to deliver on these plans. If we could move to the next slide. The 100 homes will be let at social rent, and that is a truly affordable rent for local people. They will be delivered in areas where Colchester Borough Council already owns homes, and that will keep down the cost of managing them. And all the homes will be managed by Colchester Borough Homes, who manage all of the council's homes in Colchester. All of the homes will be repaired and renewed to bring them up to a good standard before being let. And as part of the council's commitment to the climate emergency and our response to that, the council will make improvements to the homes to make them significantly more energy efficient and reduce the impact on the environment. All of the 100 homes purchased will receive works to improve their energy performance certificate to an average of a B rating, with the council investing an extra £1 million to achieve this. Those energy performance certificates measure the energy efficiency of a property on a scale of A to G. The current EPC rating in the council's housing stock is C, and this investment will bring them up significantly. The properties will be let to through our choice-based letting system, gateway to home choice, to households who are homeless and those on our housing register. And the properties will be reserved for Colchester households. To the next slide, please. We do have an ambitious timeline for delivery, with all the homes purchased by the end of March 2022. The team working on this project have a proven track record of delivery, working with Colchester Borough Homes, having already delivered similar projects in the past, with 16 homes delivered in 2018-19 and 35 homes delivered in 2019-20, all delivered on time and within budget. To the final slide, please. The proposed property types to be purchased have been decided by analysing the size and the type of homes needed by homeless households in temporary accommodation and on our housing register. As well as providing homes for 100 households, the homes will provide safe, decent, stable and affordable homes for around 220 children. Now, we know what a detrimental impact the effects of living in unsuitable or poor housing can have on people's health and well-being. And for children, good quality housing is such a positive impact on their life chances. Importantly, the 100 Homes project also gives the council the opportunity to identify and purchase homes which are suitable for adaptation, to make them suitable for wheelchair users and those with restricted mobility. And I know this is an issue that many councillors and residents really care about. The purchase of 100 homes will have a positive impact on the local economy and contribute to economic recovery following the COVID-19 pandemic. The repairs and improvements to bring homes up to a lettable standard will provide work for contractors as well as keeping supply chains going. The property purchases involve local estate agents and solicitors generating a fee income for them. And the property purchases will also keep the housing market moving in Colchester, creating a series of purchase and sales transactions, which will also contribute to recovery. And we know from the work that we've already been doing that local firms have brought people back from furlough in order to deliver on some of this work. The Cabinet's significant investment in this project will bring enormous benefits to local people, to Colchester and to the economy. And we know that it will be delivering those better homes for Colchester that we really need. I'd also like to thank my Cabinet colleagues for their continued support for this programme. And just finally want to propose one small amendment to the report's recommendations to amend 2.6 of the report. Since the report was written, Colchester Borough Homes have advised that more than one contract for the works may be awarded, and therefore amend the word contract to contracts in that point. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Adam. I think that small change is important and necessary. So that was from contract to contracts, and all of Cabinet are now aware of that. Thank you, Adam. This is part of an excellent project, part of a wider house building project as well, where we are providing more homes for our people. So I thank you, and I thank the team that are excellent behind this. They really are leading the county with the projects they're putting forward, the projects we're working on with them, and we're driving with the ambition to support as many families as we can. And I do feel and think that over the last 5-6 years, where our housing policies have been ahead of many other councils, we are now seeing how that supports families. And during this time, I hope that we're going to be able to support people who are made homeless due to financial reasons in the coming months, which we hope not to happen, but we know is a possible reality, that we're able to then house people because of these projects. And I do think that I will thank Tina and the team that are behind you, Adam. Please pass on their thanks, because many people feel that the housing situation is business as usual for the borough, but we go far and beyond. Many other councils sold off their housing, got rid of them to associations. We have the ability to increase, to build, to purchase, and in both cases we are doing that. We're putting £21 million into this project, millions of pounds into building houses as well, as you talked about, affordable rents. So those things together not only support recovery, not only support our residents and community, it makes the whole borough better. So I really do support this. And I would say that the 2 points that leap out for me, the environmental aspect of refurbing the homes, I'm really supportive of. It goes right towards our key goal of tackling the climate emergency, so thank you. And secondly, the accessibility. We've talked before, we want to ensure that we're providing homes that are accessible for people with disabilities, with less mobility, or elderly who can then stay in that property for some time. So thank you for incorporating those two. The team have been excellent. This is an excellent project that I 100% support. So thank you for that. And I'll see if there's any other speakers. Councillor Higgins and then Councillor Lilly. So Teresa, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, this is just to reinforce the paper that, I think this is a great project and it ties in with our strategic priorities as well, having a decent home. And I think this COVID-19 has really stressed the importance of having a home, and especially a little bit of garden space where possible. So the fact that we're looking more at houses and not flats, I know we'll probably buy some flats as well, but I think that's very important. And especially as I think some of our residents who have suffered from the COVID-19 will actually be suffering from repercussions of the virus for years to come, and they may need some of these adapted homes. So I'm very pleased that the accessibility has been thought through. So I'd just like to reinforce what has been said by the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. And Mike, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. This is a fantastic project. Brilliant. This is one of the biggest things to come out of this council for years. You're looking at millions of pounds invested in council homes. We're doing something that no one else has possibly done around this area anyway. We're certainly doing something that our residents want, more so than what the Tory party are doing. All they're doing is allowing developers to go and build all their rich mansions all over the place and ruining the countryside. Whereas we, as a coalition party in Colchester, doing really well. We are building council homes to house people in, which we need. And we all know very well where the Tories will go with this. Hopefully, this will be the first of many projects, and maybe we can borrow a few more million and start building even more so to get people off the waiting list. Fantastic project, and congratulations to Councillor Fox and those officers behind it, and to CBH for managing as well. It just goes to show what a brilliant organisation they are and what great officers we have in this council.
Thank you, Mike. I wholeheartedly agree, and I hope this Conservative government would look at the right to buy policy and stop deforesting our population of housing and allow us to gain back to get a lead again, so we don't have such a long waiting list, because people's lives are changed by having a home that they can rely on and it won't be taken away from them. So more of that is what we're doing here. 100 Homes project on top of the house building project. So thank you. Let's go ahead and vote on this. Andrew, please. There you are. Good to see you.
Thank you. Apologies about earlier, Chairman. Just to confirm then, the recommendations are as on screen, except with the amendments proposed to 2.6 with the by Councillor Fox to change the word contract to contracts. So Councillor Fox.
For.
For Councillor Goss.
For.
For Councillor Higgins.
For.
For Councillor King.
For.
For Councillor Lilly. I'll come back. Councillor Young.
For.
For Councillor Corey.
For.
For Councillor Lilly.
For. Not sure what happened there. Sorry.
For. That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Excellent. And moving on to item 9, which is the North Essex Garden Communities Progress and Finance Update from the recommendations from the Scrutiny panel. And Councillor Oxford had made his point in the minutes, and I'm not sure if he still wanted to speak here. So can I just ask? Richard, was it Councillor Oxford did not want to speak anymore?
Councillor Oxford had indicated no longer wish to speak on this, but we have Councillor Barber.
Oh, right. Okay. Councillor Barber, please.
Thank you, Leader, and I'm pleased to have the opportunity to speak on these recommendations this evening. The second recommendation, which received cross-party unanimous backing to bring to you to Cabinet this evening. And as Chair for the evening, I tried to make sure that a wide diversity of views were taken on board, including from Councillor Julie Young and Councillor King, who attended, and I felt we had a robust discussion on the matter. However, we did get to a point, I felt, and it was articulately put by Councillor Bourne, that Scrutiny panel had reached its limits with what could be done on the panel, and why, if I draw the attention to the second recommendation, why we felt there was merit in bringing an external audit or local government peer review, the terms of which we'd set with the scrutiny panel to a recommendation to yourselves this evening. And we drew on various factors for why we felt this was important. We looked into how we could make better decision making going forward. In particular, and I know you're all wholehearted supporters of unitary authorities in the past, so I'm sure you're as excited as I am about abolishing various councils and reorganising it to make them more democratic. And we can't point blame to one another for everything. So it's exciting to see that going forward. And I think that will really help us looking into mistakes in the past, how we better collaborate across councils as that reform goes forward. And also for any future potential garden communities, any entities that try to oversee that, I think there's real possibilities for lessons to be learned. And in particular, I was keen, because certain panel members have raised it as well, to make sure that there's an opportunity to bring in other authorities and also the government into the discussion as well, because all were stakeholders. So I know that's a concern of yours. You don't like the fact that although we're only elected to Colchester Council, we don't necessarily raise points about other authorities' involvement. Obviously, I speak about the authority I'm elected to, but this is an opportunity to bring all parties, in regards to all parties, as in stakeholders in the matter, to the table and stretch out the invitation to them. In regards to the cost, well, I know that will probably be an issue you'll raise, but we don't know the cost as yet. That's something I said I hope would be brought to Cabinet. It wasn't in the formal recommendation, but it was something I'd hope would be brought to your attention potentially, but I don't expect a final decision to be made until you understand what the costs involved of this would be. I'm pretty fiscally conservative, so I wouldn't want you to go ahead and spend £1 billion inadvertently on an external audit. So I think that you'll need to look at the costs involved, and I think that's a fair discussion to be had as well. But I remind you that, well, the council chamber saved this authority £350,000, so there is money allocated in regards to local plan matters that could be spent on this particular issue, I suppose, and it would be spread hopefully across all stakeholders involved equitably, so that we can look into all together what happened better in the past. And item A also looks into the costs associated with NEGC, the carry costs. So it would be a bit of an awkward position you put yourself in if you write off those costs and then say, actually, we don't have any money for part B, because there would be some money coming back to the coffers of the council from the recommendation in part A as well. And I think that's very important, as you keep stressing the budgetary position of the council, that we don't just wipe out money when there's no authority to do so. So these recommendations, A, didn't admittedly get cross-party support, sadly, but B did. So I hope that you'll take both of these on board and see what a sensible and prudent course of action they are for this authority going forward, particularly with likely reforms going forward. But I won't draw off. I was tempted to draw on a few naughty party political points this evening, but I won't let you tease me and do that. So I feel that I'll leave my comments there, as tantalizing as that opportunity is. But it's lovely to see you all this evening, and I hope to see you all in person soon after endorsing these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you've made me smile, Lewis, so that's good enough. And I didn't have you down to speak. You must have come in later. I just didn't.
I did. Sorry. Yes, I did. Yeah. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
That's okay. So I'll move to David to answer most of these questions. Councillor King is best placed to do so. And, you know, we like cross-party support on recommendations from scrutiny. And I think you expressed that point B, definitely got that. David, please, I'll go over to you.
Thank you very much, Leader. Thank you to Councillor Lewis Barber. Thank you, Lewis. I have to sort of say that that was as spirited an opening as your chairmanship. Your chairmanship, I do congratulate you on this, because I know the depth of your passion, but you did do your best to ensure, despite that, that it wasn't just the politics of positioning that drove the conversation. And I have a few comments I'll make on this before I get to, if I may, the recommendations that you marshalled. As somebody contributing with Julie and others to the conversation, I would sort of say my feels a little different to yours. I can watch the dynamics around that table, and the reality is you have to come to a conclusion. So the conclusion, the second conclusion, was kind of a practical, there is something here of value, and I'll get to that in a minute, around looking at how things have turned out, which sensible people everywhere would say is at the heart of good scrutiny and good governance. So that, for me, I'll come to the practicality in just a second, was the easier of the two. The first, I have to be really, really blunt. It's just not grown up. Just not grown up to really suggest that we've somehow got some spare money by virtue of not paying. And I've long expressed there is a conflict between council's judgment, which I accept, and the shareholder agreement which binds us to our parties. It's ridiculous, frankly, ridiculous to assume that they will let us demand the money that we're owed whilst not paying what from their perspective is and was, a shareholder agreement. I do understand the point you make, of course I do. And it depends on where you choose to look at primacy. The thing about administration is that we have the responsibility of doing stuff and striking an understanding years ago and then following it through. And I have to sort of say that when it comes to unitary reform, which I think actually in your heart you may be less keen about than you might suggest, but we'll see. Unitary reform of the kind that's been proposed, which erases, that is likely to erase, unless it's done exceptionally well, the identity of Colchester, is not something I support. But let's accept the principle that there are more effective ways of governing. But if there are more effective ways of governing, they would be some kind of combination of parts of Essex County Council tendering Braintree and Colchester. And I just say to you what you know, that all of those parties look on us with dismay. Colchester can't agree on anything, can't deliver anything. Our word is not our bond. Now, there are few things more cutting in life than, and Julia Young and I, who have played a very even-handed role as representatives of the council in the wider sense, have had some, and I know we're there to, it's part of the cut and thrust, but to continually have people look at you and point out to you what we cannot do, although we should do it, is really, frankly, it's disgraced. It's certainly uncomfortable. Look, let me move on and go back to where we were. Thank you for declaring your position on unitary. I'm really going to look forward to that conversation, Lewis, when we get to it. I have a few things more to say when we do. So look, from my perspective and the administration's perspective, it's absolutely right to, as I say, acknowledge that the scrutiny process is, of course, it is legitimate. It is the norm that we take as much as we can of what scrutiny recommends, and we do. So there's three pluses, and there's a couple of points I'd say to the contrary. So for me, it was a spirited, passionate discussion. It was healthy to have the conversation, even if it was uncomfortable for the administration to have it, given, let's be frank, two out of three fails is not the best of results. But we'll get to the third. It was a good, robust scrutiny session. I accept it. But here's the fails from my perspective. It took no account of what was achieved. Now, I say this in the knowledge that on social media and elsewhere, in your personal and the Conservative Party here, not in tendering, not in Braintree, not in the county, not in government's position, of course, but the Conservative Party's position here is it was a gross failure. But there was a huge prize, not least an end to the planning process, frankly, a stage reached. It is true at a cost, but a stage reached. And a garden community, with all that suggests as possible, achieved. That's not given enough credit. And it should. I accept the counterpoint, but as I say, this should be about the positives too. The second fail for me was the misrepresentation that keeps going on about costs. Too many people still say it costs CBC £8 million. Now, you know that that's not true. I'm not saying you say this now. but we all know lazy language is easy for any of us. It was 1/8 of that. And given the scale of the enterprise, the enormity of what was attempted and part succeeded, I think that's a fair result. I do not argue. I have never argued for some of the things we've done on this before my time or since. But if you look at it coolly, a £2 billion garden community, £100 million road investment, and promises of more infrastructure investments to follow is by most people's measure, those people who do this serious work would know that that's a very good return on feasibility. But the third thing, and what really I think matters most, is that we're still fighting in scrutiny, and I hope we won't keep doing it, yesterday's battle, Lewis. And it's damaging and putting at risk our reputation as a council, right? This is more than me, it's more than you, it's us as a local authority. We have, it appears, and 2.5 years in now, I think I can say I know it, a really good reputation as a well-managed, well-run local authority, the strengths of which will survive a change of administration if it happens. But we, you, Scrutiny, are putting this at risk by continually going back over the old ground and getting to some real fundamentals I've talked to about how we should conduct our business with our partners. In a way you may not see, so much depends on how they see us. So when we talk about the town deal and we talk about supplementary investments from alliance, government, arms of government, autonomous bodies, their judgments are often marginal. Go to place A, place B or C. We want to be the person, the people that they go to. This is beyond administration. So by looking backwards, I do respect you have to do some of this. There is a real downside to whatever we might gain by what we do, which is that we're reinforcing that we're difficult people to deal with. This is not about our personal qualities, it's about us collectively in the chamber and the challenges we've had. They are honest differences. I do respect that, Lewis, completely. But the consequence of where we are and how we've been as a collective council, I think are really significant. And we've got to get on sometime in the months ahead on from this. So that's bear with me and thank you for my overview. So to the point of the 2 recommendations. Here's my response, taking the first one, which is around the money. And I made it plain, it's unworkable to say, I'll have your money, but you can't have mine. So this is the position. Cabinet agrees that this council will follow accounting proper practice as confirmed by the council's section 151 officer. As CBC did not pay its 2019-20 contribution in accordance with the shareholder agreement, his view is that it is appropriate that the NEGC project accounts exclude the 2019-20 CBC carrying costs. These are at an equivalent level to the outstanding CBC contribution. The final NEGC project balance is being determined with distribution an issue that must be jointly decided with Colchester's fellow shareholders, Essex County Council and Braintree and tendering district councils. The second recommendation, thank you, Liz. Cabinet will invite Colchester's garden community partners, government, Homes England, Essex County Council and the Braintree and district councils to consider a local government peer review of the NEGC project. 2 terms that they must find acceptable, on which the views of the scrutiny panel will be sought if shareholders and government are so minded to proceed. Those 2 paragraphs, Lewis, I'm happy to send them on to you, constitute our recommended response to scrutiny. It is respectful of that good quality conversation you chaired so ably. Thank you. It is respectful of the fact that we have division and difficulty over these issues. It is respectful of the fact that we have to work with our partners. We can't insist, you do understand this, don't you? We can't insist what our partners should do. So this is an acknowledgement on both of those recommendations that that fact trumps ours. We do not own the project. We do not judge for them what will happen with the project. But what we can do in a honourable and professional way is take the points you've made and take them as far as we can. The one that has the most possibility is the peer review. I would add one qualification, and I'm sorry, Leader, it's taken a few minutes, but I will close. It deserves attention. It's given a lot by Councillor Lewis, and I respect that. We'll have to accept that there are no exact parallels. The best peer review work and the best audit work looks for learning that has an application. We know that government, by what they said after the inspector's decision, I mustn't put words in anybody else's mind or mouth, but they do see where some of this might have gone awry. But to the extent there are lessons to be learned, it'd be right for us to acknowledge both the limitations and the possibilities of that process. But we will, in good faith, and I'll have to talk to you offline, good faith, explore what others are prepared to go and do. And if they're prepared to do it, to then come back to scrutiny and say how. I hope that's a comprehensive response. I genuinely welcome the way you conducted a review I didn't look forward to at scrutiny. It was in the end a quality conversation, but I hope I've explained to you how, from a professional and council perspective, these things have to be conducted, and I hope that that's of some value. As I say, what I've read out to you will be our position, subject to the views of my colleagues.
Thank you, David. I think that was comprehensive, and I think you've done the rest of us proud there, explaining the situation, and again giving so much of your time at scrutiny, and that conversation, as you replayed to me, was fruitful. And you're right, we should learn from what we've done, take it forward constructively with our partners, and try and end it being a political football, because that doesn't help anybody. And I know that the Conservatives in Colchester aren't on the same page as government or Braintree or tendering on this one, but hopefully we can all learn lessons going forward, and a peer review could be the way forward with that. And I welcome your proposals, David, that would give those invites out to wider partners. I think there's one edit I'd make. I think you left out the word tendering in your proposals, but are we able to just put those up, Richard, just so we can be absolutely clear that, or Owen, that we're accepting a different way forward, that we listen to the scrutiny panel, and David has basically taken the spirit of B and putting that forward. Richard, please.
Yeah, if you just give me a minute, Chairman, I can show those.
Thank you. And thank you, David, for working those up as an answer to the recommendations from scrutiny. And I'll put those, once they come up on the screen, put those to the vote for Cabinet. I'll just check if there's any other hands up. Oh, Julie. I'll go to you, Julie, while Richard brings up the screen share. Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, I won't delay the meeting too much, Leader. All I will say is, I take very seriously the comments that were made by the Leader of Tendring District Council when he talked about the trust being broken between the two councils. And if there's any lessons to be learned, that must be one of the key platforms in which we build trust again with our neighbours, because the success of the East Garden community will absolutely rely on a partnership between us and tendering, regardless of what happens regarding local government reorganisation. We have got that in the plan. If the plan goes to plan, we will adopt section 1 with the East Garden community. And going forward, you know, learning about how we can do better in terms of consultation and engagement with the community. We know that stewardship of that garden community will be really, really important. So any learning we can get from a peer review, if we can get on board our neighbours to work with us on that, will stand us in good stead to make sure that's a success. In terms of the first recommendation, it's really important that we do as the council wants, and that is to bring to a close NEGC. And within any contract that we're in, that's about balancing the books and putting that to bed. And that's what we need to do here, Leader. And that's what the recommendation helps us with. It's been an interesting journey in the sense that the politics of our local opposition is completely at odds with its own government and the neighbouring authority, like, you know, Tories there as well. And, you know, I can't explain that really. But now is the time to move on and complete the contract with NEGC and try and rebuild the trust between Tendring and Essex County Council so we can move forward positively.
Thank you, Judy. I completely understand what you say about the trust for Tendring District Council. It was clear from the letter that we received from Councillor Neil Stock about the dangers that have of sort of the toing and throwing at our council. I can assure you that the relationship I have from leader to leader is still very positive. We do trust each other, so that is helpful. We will move forward positively. So thank you, Richard, for bringing up the recommendations that David has put forward that we will agree. So we'll take the spirit of B, and that is very clear there. But with A, we will reject the wording from the scrutiny panel, and instead these 2 points are what we want to take forward. That's something I've discussed with David and we've shared with the rest of the Cabinet. So therefore, unless there's any other points from Cabinet, I'm going to move forward to the vote. Andrew, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So just to be clear, you are rejecting recommendation A from the scrutiny panel, and you're amending recommendation B as per that is on the screen.
Yes, it would. The top point here on the screen, would that replace A as well, or would you prefer us to just reject A outright? And we're just wondering whether to replace it with this.
I think, Chairman, it would be cleaner if you were to reject A and then to use that revised wording there.
Okay, David, are you happy with that?
Yes, as long as, you know, what we're doing is acknowledging. I think we need to be very clear that we have welcomed the scrutiny review, that we are not accepting the wording on A, but we are applying the wording here, and as Andrew has said, that we're adapting B. But in both cases, this is what we need to note for the record, is that this is our response and this is our way ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, thank you to scrutiny and to basically, as you said, reject A and take forward B and agree this wording. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Carry on.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fox?
4.
4. Councillor Goss?
4.
4. Councillor Higgins?
4.
4. Councillor King?
4.
4. Councillor Lilly?
4.
4. Councillor Young?
4.
4. Councillor Corey?
4.
4. That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Leader, sorry, just when you circulate this to members quickly, could you just put in the appendix the paragraph from the shareholders agreement that specifies about the 2019-20 payment, please? Thank you.
So moving forward, item 10 is the Stanway Western Approach Community Facility. I have Councillor Scott Boutel to come and speak to Cabinet, so I welcome her. and I'll move to her now. Are you there, Leslie?
I certainly am.
Good evening, good to see you, and over to you now to speak on this item.
Right, I'm just going to change it because I've still got the screenshot of the last item up on my screen, so bear with me.
That's the recommendations for the Stanway item on the screen, but
It is. Right, good evening, Councillor Corey. There are various submissions within the report that I seek clarification on, or to make a request to Cabinet. So we'll refer to the bullet points numberings to raise my various concerns and points. So if you can be prepared, listen out for the bullet point numbers. Firstly, bullet point 2.2. I note that the proposal to delegate authority to the Assistant Director for Communities. However, as a ward councillor that's been involved with this project since 2012, I would like to request that all ward councillors are invited to be involved with the future arrangements for the management and ownership, and are therefore able to influence the decision-making process. In addition, I would like further clarification on the phrase management and ownership. Can it be confirmed that the ownership of both building and land remains with Colchester Borough Council, with the preferred approach of retaining ownership of the land, but granting the potential lessee, Stanway Parish Council, a 150-year ground lease at a peppercorn rent? Also, what happens if the building falls into disrepair and is worthless at the end of the 150-year lease? What safeguards can be put in place if during the 150 years either Colchester Borough Council or Stanway Parish Council cease to be? On to the alternative options section. Can I have clarification as to what the implications, you know what I'm trying to say, are on 4.1 and 4.2. Bullet point 4.3, who would form a not-for-profit community interest company to manage the freehold? And by freehold, do you mean the land or the land and building? I'm pleased to see the evidence in 5.6 identifies a shortfall in local provision of health and wellbeing activities, and this has been included in the design. What measures will be put in place to ensure that the facility delivers long-term what the community has requested? Can I have some clarification on 5.9, where it states the Parish Council is now willing to take the lead on owning, managing and facilitating the building? At what point has owning come into the equation? My understanding is that what is being discussed is a 150-year lease. Shouldn't it read leasing, managing and facilitating the building? I welcome bullet point 6.1 that this building will be fully accessible and inclusive to all residents in the protected groups. However, I would like reassurance that this will be written in as a covenant into the agreement. I would also like to know what action Colchester Borough Council will take if the agreement is not met. Regarding 11.2, just a quick question. Who will agree what support services will be charged for booking a section of the building? Can this be written into the lease contract? For example, virtual health services, benefit and debts advice and support by Stanway's churches should not be charged for. It would be really nice to have a Stanway carol service where the collection was not used for the hire of the hall. And finally, 11.2, regarding the crossing point, former Councillor Jessica Scott-Butell submitted a funding application to the local highways panel for a crossing point. Essex County Council has archived this submission. I suggest that Colchester Borough Council portfolio holders liaise with Essex County Council portfolio holder and agree to resurrect this application. Councillor Goss, could you take this forward, please? I believe speed surveys have already been undertaken at this location. We know a pedestrian footfall will increase when the building is there, and it will be sensible to start looking to design sooner rather than later. Furthermore, I have been contacted by a developer asking where he's paid Section 106 contribution of £504.21 for a pedestrian crossing contribution will be installed. Could this not be used for this needed and identified by residents crossing point? And that's my gallop through the bullet points, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. I'll just make clear that Councillor Leslie Scott-Whittle is Councillor for Stanway, so it's quite clear that she's got very detailed points there, that some of which are to be involved with us as the Borough Council, some on the County Council, and I think Councillor Mike Lilly will pick up some. Councillor Gossett probably will take forward that mention you gave him on the transport issue. Thank you, Leslie. Lots included there. I'll just go to the written statement by Councillor Dundas as well, and then I'll go to Mike and to Councillor King and anyone else who wants to speak. Richard, please.
Thank you, Chair. This is a written statement from Councillor Dundas. As a ward councillor for Stanway and a member of Stanway Parish Council, for which I must declare an interest, I would endorse the recommended decision. I would endorse the recommended decision. With regard to the 4 alternative options, paragraphs 4.1 to 4.4 in the report, I would comment on each as follows. 1. From knowledge of discussion, I would not expect the Parish Council to accept a short tenancy or one which did not allow them full responsibility of the building. 2. This may be an option, although seems to offer little tangible benefit / difference to the one proposed. 3. In the event that agreement cannot be reached with Stanway Parish Council, this would seem the default fallback position for Colchester Borough Council. However, it should be noted that the facility is likely to require some financial support, particularly in early years of operation, so Colchester Borough Council must accept this would involve some revenue expenditure and necessary budgeting. 4. From my knowledge of the local situation, whilst this may result in some responses, I feel that they are unlikely to be from any organisation with sufficient financial resources to take on the facility unless the costs are significantly underwritten by Colchester Borough Council. Since the original expression of interest exercise, most likely candidates have had 6 months of zero or near zero income and would be unwilling to commit themselves to a new high-cost facility at this time. And that concludes the statement.
Thank you, Richard. That's very helpful. I will go to Mike and then to Councillor King. Thank you, Mike.
Well, I'm not sure. There were so many bullet points in there that I got lost after a while. It would have been really nice to have a heads up over all their points so we can give some proper answers for that. And I thought we covered all these in the last meeting that we had with the parish council and with Leslie attended to that. So there's an awful lot in there that we don't. Our basic aim for this is for this community building to be used by the residents of Stanway, and we're working with the parish council to achieve that aim, and they're quite happy to take it on. We want to give them this building under our policy of let communities run assets for themselves. This is what it should be all about, but I don't really understand that where we are tonight, that we want to change everything. And I can't really answer all the bullet points because I don't really have all those answers here and now. I'll have to think about and have a look down in writing where exactly you're coming from. We've been asked by the officers to seek approval from Cabinet to work with the Stanway Parish Council. And I think that's a fantastic thing to do. And that's what we should be doing. But if we start inviting everybody around, then I'm not sure it's going to be just a talking point. I know that parishes from old, from OH Parish Council, they tend to run the parish themselves, and we help with any advice in doing that. So I would imagine that the Stanway Parish Council would involve the ward councillors. There's 3 of them there, and they should invite them all to talks. But I'm a bit flummoxed, to be honest. I don't know where we're coming from. It seems a bit a late minute statement, and I was just going to really go along because I'm happy with our recommendations, to be honest, and I'm happy with the work that we've done with Stanway Parish Council. So I don't really know.
Thank you, Mike.
With Councillor Dundas' statement, because you've written a submission statement, I'd like to thank Councillor Dundas for his support in relation to the recommendation. And we will endeavour to work with Stanway Parish Council to secure a sustainable future for this important building. And to be honest, I thought that we were just going to push ahead with the scheme and hopefully get set to building this building and give it over to the Stanway residents. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. I'll move to David shortly, but I think a number of points that Councillor Scott Butell brought up, we do support, and that is part of the process going forward. A long lease kept within our ownership, but a long lease to the Community Parish Council. And a number of safeguards that you asked for are in place. Some of the questions I think we can't answer this evening, so we have to take away an answer in written form. And I will pass to David now just to cover anything else that he may be able to answer this evening, and then we will address any further questions after that. David, thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Leslie, for showing again your passion for your ward and for this project and for the insights that you bring. As Councillor Lilly has described, we have been through, I think, many of these, but it's no bad thing to have a capture of what in some form needs to be ticked off or expressed in accordance with the usual practice on these kinds of community facilities. It's a real prize for Stanway, and I think I would urge Cabinet to consider still giving, as requested by officers, the authority to proceed, but to note that Councillor Scott Butell has some issues of important detail which they should return to, and I'm sure the portfolio holders, Mike and I, would be happy to go around that again if that was necessary. I did note one particular point, which was around sort of a point of principle, really, which is about length of lease and safeguards. We absolutely cannot legislate for what the future will bring, and we're talking now about changes in local authority relationships, each with each other, and in turn with the residents we're supposed to represent. And so 150 years is an awful long time, a point that was made in conversations with the parish council directly. So my take on this is this is something that we can and we should work through, as long as we understand, and Councillor Scott Butell sets the assurance that I'm sure we're trying to give to her, that this will be done as well as we can in accordance with the usual practice. Then I think we should give officers the authority they want to have meaningful discussions that bring this towards a close.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Mike, again. So yes, we will ensure consultation continues with the ward councillors, the two active ward councillors we've been talking to, Councillor Dundas and Councillor Scott Butell, have been kept informed and involved in these conversations going forward. So any further outstanding clarifications we've not given tonight, we can give. Okay, so consultation with ward councillors will be ongoing, as it has been already, and that long lease is how the ownership will go forward. So we wish the parish council success with this, and it's part of our agenda to ensure that local people have control over their assets. And also, I think Councillor Scott Butell was talking about how the community centre is hired out to people, and that should be about community benefit and investment in the community as best as possible. Councillor Higgins, I see you've indicated, and then I'll bring this to a close, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Just looking at the recommendations and following from what Councillor Scott Butell has said, I think she's asking for a lot of detail, which actually is can come up once the discussions go ahead, because it says to confirm 2.3 preferred approach of retaining the land and all that stuff there. So I'm sure that in the negotiations and the actual lease that is signed, all that detail will come out at that stage, which can then be argued before the contracts are finally signed. Because I couldn't keep up with everything that she said, and it's unfortunately it wasn't sent to us in advance to have a look at it. So I think we should go with the recommendations. I can just also put my hands up. I don't have a parish council. I've never had to deal with one. So I do understand that sometimes there are sort of conflicts within parish councillors themselves, but we are trying to give something to the Stanway parish and to the Stanway ward. And as Councillor Scott-Littell says, it's been going on since 2012. That's 8 years that this has been undergoing, and after time some things just have to come to conclusion and be got through. Thanks.
Thank you. This is a positive, making sure that the community centre is built and it is used by the people, and it will be. And the clarification is clear tonight for Councillor Scott-Littell that we want to give a long lease to the parish council. And you're right, some of the detail will continue to come out, and we'll keep ward councillors close to that. Okay, thank you. I'll move to the vote. Andrew Weavers, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Leader. The recommendations there on the screen, 2.1 to 2.3. Councillor Fox?
4.
4. Councillor Goss?
4.
4. Councillor Higgins?
4.
4. Councillor King?
4.
4. Councillor Lilly?
4.
4. Councillor Young?
4.
4. And Councillor Corey?
4.
4. That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on. I'm just thinking that we usually would have a break, but I do think that we may be able to get through. Perhaps not, actually. Let's go to the next item and see how far we get, and then we'll decide on a break. So the next item is the performance report, and I do not think there's any public speakers, so I go straight to the portfolio holder, Julie Young, please.
Thank you, Leader. There's a lot in these reports, and I'll try to skip through that as quickly as I can. This is our end of term report, actually, for 1920, and it includes achievements against the council's strategic plan. So the performance against the KPIs reveals another excellent year, with 10 at green and 3 at red. Of the 10 that are green, there's some exceptional levels of performance. If I can pick out a few, Leader. So if we look at the processing times for housing benefit and local council tax discount scheme, applications with an average processing time of 2 to 3 days, respectively, against a target of 7 days. This performance means that some of our most vulnerable residents are provided with financial support quickly and effectively, which is obviously really, really important in supporting our community. So the performance against affordable homes delivery has been impressive, delivering 237 much needed affordable homes. We've talked about housing quite a lot this evening. Some areas of performance that were red last year have also improved to green, such as performance against the target level of staff sickness. So we've been working really, really hard at developing a strategy around the well-being of our staff, supporting them with physio and for counselling services to make sure they get recovered as quickly as they possibly can. In terms of the performance targets that were red, the full homelessness duty owed target, there was a new target, and as such there was no previous baseline for this, which was set at an incorrect level, and it's been reset for 30% for 2021. As a result of not achieving the target, we've also benchmarked performance with other councils, and everyone recorded info in a very different way, which makes meaningful comparison very difficult. As such, this measure will be reviewed at 6 points. This will identify a more appropriate method to measure performance in responding to homelessness. Just turning to residential waste for a moment. As a cumulative average was not achieved, but when considered as a percentage of collections made, only 0.04% of bins were missed. So again, just to remind you that this target has been changed for this year as a percentage of collections made. So we've got a target of 99.94%. Just to look at update on progress against the strategic plan. There's numerous examples of excellent achievements against our strategic objectives. There are too many to outline tonight, but some of the key ones of the promotion of our exceptional heritage and culture continues. So we've got increased visitors to our flagship Colchester Castle Museum, up to 88,160 from 87,580 last year. We continue to invest in the development, starting on the world of work with 11 new apprentices signed up this year. And we've got a multi-agency approach to managing the town centre. So we've worked very closely with the BID, launching Neat Street, which has been a tremendous success. And in terms of helping our residents live healthier lives, I wanted to mention the Deaf Refunded Air Quality Project and how we've promoted cycling and walking and no vehicle idling. In terms of affordable homes, planning permission has been granted for 2 sites representing 30 affordable homes with more sites to follow. And finally, Leader, I wanted to draw the panel's attention to the multitude of awards and accreditations achieved by our council as Appendix C. This is an impressive list demonstrating the quality and hard work of all our staff. I won't go into the detail, I know others may do so. That's all I have from me. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Julie. And I have Councillor King, please. David.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Julie Young, for describing the quality of performance by our teams and indeed by this administration. The Appendix C is something that we should insist all councillors read at least once a year, because it is a salutary reminder. A response and rebuke. Stand by for the clock.
We'll rate the performance of your clock, Councillor King, as it appears so often. It's less appealing than the
I just knew that, Leader, you will be stopping by 8 o'clock, so I do not hold myself responsible. So back to Appendix C, if I may. Just a half dozen points. The serious thing to say here is genuinely, for those who say casually, whether they're the opposition or as is often the case, a resident having a grumble, they might be right on a detail that the council don't deliver. There is lots of evidence that we are all well served, really superbly served by our officers. And we do say this, but it's good to see third-party awards that prove just that. So I'm just going to pull out half a dozen examples swiftly, and on the grounds that, the good reminder for us and anybody listening. The most important thing is rightly the first point on Appendix C, which is about the quality of the COVID-19 response. This is about the health, well-being, and happiness, frankly, of our residents, the service provided here. To have that drawn up as good practice and shared with others is to your credit, Leader, and to our officers and the senior team and all of those who work so well with our partners. I think it's fantastic that we can say, hand on heart, that in all those terrible circumstances, this council did a cracking job. Our officers did a cracking job, and it's good to see that's recognised nationally. Over the page, there's a number of local government and other awards. I would like this, it fits with our themes. Amongst them are recognition for Amphora on driving growth and entrepreneurial commerciality. This really matters. It drives our income, reduces the cost to our residents, it improves what we can afford to provide in terms of service. As the portfolio holder who is responsible for getting the money in, I love it, even if not everybody will, that we are finalists in the Benefits and Welfare Reform Team of the Year, and also the Most Improved Team of the Year when it comes to getting the money in, but also in getting it out. And that was shown in the stats that Councillor Young talked about earlier. I don't want to take too much of your time. That's just a few examples, but there are some others. It's nice to know we've moved up a number of places in the Hot 100 places to have an office. And I think that's a demonstration of our adaptability as a destination as well, the quality of what we provide. And we talked earlier about land, availability, flexibility when it comes to negotiation and provision. I think all of those things really do matter. I'd like just to sort of remind ourselves that in all of these awards, including being finalists in workforce transformation, for all the jargon, it's about good or great people doing a great job. And it's super that a number of those awards are about individuals, and that individuals get a recognition, including Pam Nelson, known to many of us, in the top 100 of those who encourage others to get on a bike. I think that's brilliant. And all that comes down to really on the front page of Appendix C for those who are at this moment turning the pages, leader, about customer service, and the fact that excellence has been recognised again, that we've met the excellence standard as a council, which is an independent assessment based upon the responses of our customers, our residents. When they ring, when they seek help and support, I think is brilliant. This council, and we can only take a little credit, this council really works well for its people, and it's a tribute to them, and it's great that it's acknowledged in Appendix C. And I thank Councillor Julie Young for giving me the space to pull those out. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Julie. And David, you say it well. This council works well for its people, and it's a privilege to lead with you, the cabinet, with such good officers. Those who are here supporting this evening, Richard helps us make it work at the front of house, and there's many people back at Rowan House who are making people's lives better. And those awards that we were going to go and receive up in London before COVID struck, possibly 3, are from the sector, and as you say, independently judged, and that is amazing, and it's proud to have that going forward, to be recognised nationally in 3 areas, to be one of the top councils in the country. So Julie said at the start, this is an end of term report. I'm a teacher by trade, and I would give this council a gold star. So thank you both for your contributions. I have no other hands up, and I'm happy to move to a vote, and then we'll move to the break, and the Customer Service Award you allude to, David, will come up in the next item with the Ombudsman report. Thank you. Andrew, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Fox?
4.
4. Councillor Goss?
4.
4. Councillor Higgins?
4.
4. Councillor King?
4.
4. Councillor Lilly?
4.
4. Councillor Young?
4.
4. And Councillor Corey?
4.
4. That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. I would say that it will be useful for us all to have a comfort break of 5 minutes and or 6 minutes, and I'll let you come back at 20:15, so 8:15, please, and we'll get on with the next agenda item. So please mute and put your screens to blank. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. We'll be back soon. Thank you. Richard, are we ready to go back to the operational screen? And are we still live? I believe we are.
We are still live, Chairman.
Thank you, Richard. Then, as long as I see most of my cabinet back, I will start very shortly. Just waiting for Teresa, but see Martin's back. So I will move on to item 12, which is the Ombudsman report, the annual letter, Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman annual letter review. So I introduced this item. This is a more strategic item. We get this every year, and once again it shows that we are better than average amongst councils, and that 99.9% of all customer inquiries are dealt with extremely well. And that is why, as Councillor King referred to a few minutes ago, we are up again for awards for our customer service and recognised for our excellence in that area. So we have had some complaints, but overall, as a council, I think we've done very well to have just a small number. Some of them are also about transport and highways, which I think are more to do with Essex County Council. But we take those responses, we deal with them in the right way as they go to the Ombudsman. And those that are upheld, of which there is one, we deal with it in the way that the Ombudsman asks us to. So the report is quite clear. As I say, 99.9% are dealt with absolutely excellently, and others we have to deal with are explained in this letter, and we have dealt with them in the way that we've been instructed to by the Ombudsman. So I'd like to ask if there's any other Cabinet members who want to ask questions on this. If not, it's a positive report once again, and shows that we're doing the right thing for our residents. So therefore, can I ask that we note this and move to Andrew for the vote?
Chairman, Councillor Fox.
4.
4. Councillor Goss.
4.
4. Councillor Higgins.
4.
4. Councillor King. Councillor Lilly.
4.
4. Councillor Young.
4.
4. Councillor Corey.
4.
4. And Councillor King. That's Councillor King. 4. Thank you. That's unanimous, Chairman. Thank you.
Excellent. No complaints there. Thank you. Moving on to item 13, the recommendations from the policy panel. So this item has with it the policy panel agenda items for the year, some of the questions they're posing to look into and to answer. And we thank them for their work and what they want to look into. And we just have a look at these recommendations that are on screen. Thank you for putting them forward. And I just ask those who are relevant in terms of portfolio holder responsibility to speak. And that is Councillor Fox, Councillor Lilly, and Councillor Young. So in that order, if I could take Councillor Fox, please, and just speak to the items that are relevant to you in the recommendations. Please make that clear. Councillor Fox, followed by Councillor Lilly, followed by Councillor Young. Over to you.
Thank you, Leader. So in response to the public initiative on a thermal camera loan to residents, in principle, I'm really supportive of this idea. It speaks to our commitment around the climate emergency. I think what we need is some time to consider the costs and the administration, along with a conversation with the Essex Association of Local Councils, and I'm absolutely up for us doing that, and we'll look into that further and take that on. The second item that covers under my portfolio is item 3B, ways to build relationships with social housing providers and work with the council's welfare and housing teams to mitigate loneliness and deprivation. This already features heavily in the council's strategic priorities, and housing providers and Colchester Borough Homes are already working hard to help. We're happy to see if there's more that we can be done on what is a really important issue for residents. I recognise that inequalities are growing and that COVID-19 has also exacerbated social isolation, particularly for some of our most vulnerable residents. We're working with all our system partners through One Colchester, through the Health and Wellbeing Alliance to address these health and wellbeing issues. In response to COVID-19, an ongoing track and trace is key. There's funding for domestic violence and working with NEGC Chapter. There's our commitment to asset-based community development and working with all our partners. I think this is a really important issue for us, and I know that myself and Councillor Lily, who covers the communities portfolio as well, will be working really hard on ensuring that we learn the lessons from COVID-19 and we really support our residents around mitigating loneliness and tackling deprivation in our communities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. Councillor Lilly.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. As Adam's covered that, I'd like to address the issues in mainly number 4, reduction of antisocial use of fireworks within the borough. So they recommend that the council more heavily promote how the public can safely consider use fireworks with the health and safety. But we already really do a lot of this work. Anyway, been doing it for a few years where we post up information from governments about health and safety to do with fireworks. That comes out just before November the 5th every year. In B, officers of the council work with Essex Police. Yeah, we do work with the police. Yeah, as you know, we have a partnership with the police. They do publicise just before November 5th. They publicise how they can contact, residents can contact the police to report fireworks going off. But obviously, it's always a case of priority with the police. So half the time they haven't got the officers to go out and deal with those issues. But what we could do, we will try and do a bit more publicity around November the 5th, just before, a couple of days before, and we can publish all the means that residents can contact the police and the council as well. And on C, the council lobbies local members of public to raise the issue in central government, which is a good thing, I think, that maybe the government should do a bit more proactive stuff through using social media of that. I would also like to see a tougher stance. Our members of parliament actually raise the issue of only public displays be allowed and that the sale of fireworks to the general public should be banned because they are a nuisance to animals and to elderly people and vulnerable people. It has become worse and worse every year. And hopefully, Leader, that I think I've answered all those questions.
Thank you, Mike. And Julie, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. This is about methods by which the heritage assets across Colchester Borough can be better promoted. I wanted to actually draw attention to the significant work that has been done over the last 18 months by the Heritage Task and Finish Group, and we discussed our priorities going forward in our strategic plan earlier, and the priority we're intending to apply to promoting our heritage assets. So we do have to be mindful of the budget constraints. So I think we are already doing a lot to promote our heritage assets. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a new website launched for the Visitor Information Centre, and we're linking up with the bid marketing as well. So we're working on the town centre, so I don't feel repeating this is the best use of resources at this time, Leader. Although I thank those people that have been involved in bringing these priorities to our attention.
Thank you, Julie. I have Councillor Higgins and Councillor King. So Teresa and then David, please.
Yes, thank you very much. I just want to quickly add a few more words to what Councillor Lilly has said about the fireworks. First of all, can I thank Councillor Leslie Scott-Bootal, because I think she was instrumental in raising some of these issues under the responsible dog ownership paper that we've done as well. Like Councillor Lilly, I'm fine for organised ones on the 5th of November and maybe New Year's Eve, but at the moment they seem to be sold at least a month in advance, and certainly in Newtown, in a heavily built up area, you know, we're getting fireworks that month before 5th of November. We get constant complaints about fireworks being let off, children can't get into sleep, and upset dogs. And then let alone the sort of flying debris, because you can then find these sticks from rockets all around the ward as well. So I do think we need to strongly lobby the MPs and make that, you know, they need to think about this a bit more and the effect it does have on certain residents and their animals. Thank you. And maybe trading standards could look into the sale of these things, because sometimes I think they get into rogue hands.
I think they do try to, but you're absolutely right. Councillor King, please, David.
Thank you, Leader. I'd just like to pick up the recommendation relating to ways in which the council can support Colchester Borough's independent and small traders in the wake of COVID-19, such as those operating in the South Lanes. So these are the independent, often referred to as the indies or the independent stores in our town centre. I want to thank the panel for reinforcing our attention on the needs of businesses large and small, and I'll respond in that vein by an assurance to them, but whilst welcoming what they say, that we're actually on this. It's great to have their encouragement. I will bear this in mind when we get to the next phase. I can sort of say now there's a few points which apply to everybody, and then there's some specifics applied to the indies. So for everybody, what the council is doing and needs to do, and needs the cooperation, help and support of businesses large and small, will be around COVID, good practice, track and trace, and the kind of good rather than the poorer practices that you can see in some town centres. That's absolutely crucial to consumer confidence and public health and public safety. And I think the independent shops are playing their part in that. Our promise as a council is to continue to give them the help and the support that they need. The other wider point, before I get the specifics, is by working with the Business Improvement District, we can magnify what we're able to do together, whether that's marketing and events, or whether that's general help and support to the condition of the town centre. I think that's a really great, they have a great record. I think we're adding firepower to what they're doing. I think that impact will help businesses large and small, including the independents. Specifically, an assurance and a response to the policy panel that we have picked up on the need to look at their particular circumstances, their wish, their desire to create a local identity that's distinctive enough to attract consumers, residents and visitors. And as you will know, Leader, we have in the last weeks agreed a package of investment, some 100k, which will, at the heart of which will include trying to, in months ahead, start to create that distinctive, welcoming local identity for the smaller shops in those streets, including the ones mentioned. I think that's really encouraging. The longer term promise, and again, welcome the encouragement of the policy panel, is to ensure that when we move towards the town deal, that the destination experience of Colchester features in the way in which public realm and the marketing of the town is made as attractive as we can make it. And we will continue to bear in mind the needs of the smaller traders, including those mentioned. So I welcome the observations and the support for that investment. Thank you.
Thank you to all contributors there. So thank you. I believe that we've answered as many as we can there and can take forward, as described by each portfolio holder, the recommendations in the way that they have been outlined, whether they are achievable, whether we're doing them already, or have to understand that we will do what we can in the constrained post-COVID budget. Okay, so can we take those forward in the ways described this evening? Andrew, we'll go to a vote.
Chairman, just before we do, can you just clarify, please, around the work programme? Cabinet has discussed all the other recommendations, but not the work programme. So are you content to agree those proposals in relation to paragraph 5, the work programme 2021?
Could we bring that up for everyone to see again, please? Thank you, Owen. Yes, but both of those issues, A and B, will be discussed in other places. But I do think once information has been collated from local plan and from other reports in terms of the white paper on local government reform, the policy panel can then take back information and have a look at it and decide whether or not to go over it again if it has been dealt with by other panels. So I think that I think some of those will have to wait for A, to find out what about white paper, and B, has been discussed at the local plan. But the policy panel could take the minutes from the local plan and decide whether they need to take it forward further. And I have said this evening in response to Councillor Scaldis as well that I'll be submitting a motion to full council on that matter. Therefore, I would suggest that A is taken forward, but B at this moment is paused. But A even needs more time to be. Can we take that forward, that B is being dealt with elsewhere, but they can take the minutes of the local plan committee and decide if they need to go any further forward, and the motion to full council, and that A they can deal with at a later stage when the white paper develops. Okay, can we move to a vote on all of those, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Fox?
4.
4. Councillor Goss?
4.
4. Councillor Higgins?
4.
4. Councillor King?
4.
4. Councillor Lilly?
4.
4. Councillor Young?
4.
4. And Councillor Corey?
4.
4. Thank you, Chairman. That's unanimous.
Thank you. Now we move to item 13, 2 little I's, which is the nomination for Deputy Mayor. And I invite Councillor Gerald Oxford back to the meeting to make the nomination. He's untimed. I just want to say at this point, Gerald, because I know I've been speaking to you over the last 7 or 8 days, I wish Bev well, Councillor Beverly Oxford. I wish her well. I think you will explain to us that she's still in hospital. So I hope you can just update us and then move on to the item. Thank you.
She actually came out of hospital last night. So she was in there last week and she came out last night. A district nurse was supposed to be coming out to see her to dress the leg today, but didn't turn up. So
I wish her well at home.
Yeah, we'll contact the GP tomorrow about that. But
thank you.
She's totally wiped out. So it's and she's on 5,200 milligrams of antibiotics every day, which is a lot.
Wish her well from us all this evening, and
Thank you.
I'll let you carry on now with the item. Thank you.
Right, so I'm nominating or proposing, whichever terminology you would like, Councillor Tim Young as the upcoming Deputy Mayor in October of this year is the date stated. The mayoralty has always been on long-serving councillors, and I did some research earlier today, and of the 10 longest-serving councillors on the council, Tim is number 2, behind only the grandfather of the council, as I call Councillor Mike Hogg. He loves me calling that. Tim was first elected in 1992 and has been elected ever since. Sad to see an Ipswich Town supporter being elected like that, but hey, somebody's got to support them. So, sorry, Tim. And I believe that, and I've said to Tim myself that obviously the rules and regulations regarding the mayoralty are you wear the robes, you sing the national anthem, you do all the necessary things. He knows this and he's ready to do this. He deserves the same opportunity as everybody else to be mayor of this borough in due course, in my view. And hopefully Cabinet will support that, and ultimately it will go to full council. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerard. And yes, I understand, as you explained about etiquette, that Councillor Tim Young has served a considerable amount of years. I'm sure he'll explain, and he should be here. So I'll pass to Councillor. Oh no, I won't yet. I'll just see if there's any other comments to be made. First of all, from councillors, I know it's been discussed, and from the Lib Dem group, we believe in the etiquette of that long-serving record. So therefore, that's why I will support Tim. And I will move to the vote if there's no other comments. So, Andrew Weavers, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Councillor Fox.
Not voting.
Not voting. Councillor Goss.
4.
4. Councillor Higgins.
4.
4. Councillor King.
4.
4. Councillor Lilly.
Not voting.
Not voting. Councillor Young.
Not voting.
Not voting. Councillor Corey.
4.
4. Thank you. That's 4 votes for and 3 not voting. So therefore, the nomination is carried. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. So that will move to the October meeting when it will go to all of full council. Thank you, and congratulations for that nomination to go forward for Tim Young to the full council. And Councillor Young is here, and I'll allow him to come on and speak now. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Mark. And can I start by thanking Gerard, Bev and Philip for nominating me. I think very pleased with the nomination. And yeah, I have my crosses to bear, being an Ipswich Town fan and not a Colchestrian, but I've lived in Colchester since 1984. So I think that qualifies me as somebody who has shown a commitment to the borough. And I wish Bev all the best as well. Gerard told me that as you've been in hospital, I sent my best wishes for a speedy recovery. It sounds as though she's in a lot of pain, and I think we all admire the work Bev has done. So thanks, Gerard, Bev and Philip for nominating me. I guess some will say who'd have thought it, but I know what an honour and a privilege it is to be nominated as Deputy Mayor of the historic borough of Colchester. You've got 2 former mayors on the cabinet. If I can do half as well as they did, then I think I'll be very, very pleased. And I'd like to thank members from all the groups on the council who've encouraged me to put my name forward. That's been a great comfort to me. And thanks to everybody from Labour, Lib Dems, Conservatives, Highwoods and Councillor Gocher, who have all indicated their support. So thank you, Mark, Martin and Teresa and David for voting to recommend to full council that I be put forward as Deputy Mayor. It's a shame tonight it wasn't unanimous, but hopefully by the time of full council next month that it will be. As Gerald mentioned, I worked out I've been on the council nearly half my life, so that's quite some time. 28 years, 30 years by the time of 2022, when I'll be due to be mayor. So that is a long time, and I've thought about it. I'm sure there'll be comments made, and people will be doing their research and looking at what I've said in the past. But I think the mayoralty is a great honour. I think the traditions that go with it, I will absolutely respect. And being deputy mayor as well, having been mayor's escort for 2 years, I saw the good work that is done in Colchester and can be done, a lot of it unseen. And although all mayors do it, deputy mayors do it their own way, then I think those traditions and customs have to be respected too. It is, of course, also a great honour for Greenstead Ward for one of their members to be put forward as deputy mayor and then mayor. And I know how proud they'll be, the residents of Greenstead Ward, for one of their councillors to hopefully be deputy mayor and then mayor in the next few years at a difficult time. But of course, first and foremost, as deputy mayor, I look forward to being a loyal, able and supportive deputy to Councillor Robert Davidson and his wife, the mayor, deputy mayoress, soon to be mayoress Elizabeth. I get on really well with Robert, always have done. We share, I think, a sense of mischief and a sense of humour. And I know that, like at the moment, Nick Cope is being, that Robert will be a great ambassador for the borough of Colchester, and anything that I can do to support him in his role as mayor, as deputy, then I will be perfectly prepared to do that. And I look forward to working with him. And as I say, I'm absolutely honoured and touched that to be put forward by the Cabinet for recommendation to full council to be deputy mayor of this great borough of ours. And I look forward to having that honour bestowed upon me in October. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Tim, and it is an honour, and we'll take it to full council, and I'm sure you will uphold all those traditions you've just talked about, and people will bring up some of the comments from before, but progress happens. I'm not always one for tradition, but I think the civic nature of our borough is so important, keeping our identity, which is something we're absolutely fighting for with the local government reorganisation as well. So thank you, and we'll move on to full council. We'll move on to the next item. Thank you. So the next item is item 13, 3 little i's, the progress of responses to the public. Richard Clifford, how far have we got with those? Have we completed them all?
They're all completed, thank you, Chairman.
Excellent, thank you. And I encourage members of the public to come and have your say here, or to email us. I always answer questions on Ask Mark as well. Some people sometimes say on Twitter, have you answered our questions? Well, please officially come through the channels and we will answer them as best as possible, as we have done this evening. So thank you all. I think that takes us to the end of the agenda. So we have no further items of confidential reports. So therefore, I just checked with Richard Clifford. I can close the meeting.
You can, Chairman.
Excellent. Thank you all this evening for your cooperation, support, and good decision making. Thank you all, and good night.